Alright, N20 fam. So when you get to removing this valve cover gasket, remember it has two pressure control valves. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or even describing it right, but they are vital. They go to the engine, and if you take them off while the engine's running, or you put this back on and don't connect them, you will have an idling problem because there's going to be some kind of vacuum leak code. So just make sure when you take this off, you put those back on and mark where they go. So I probably did it the way you should not do it. As you can see, there's oil leaking out of there. One hose goes there, the other hose goes here to that hose. So this is from my memory, but you may do it differently. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is remove the intake and the charge pipe. Since we're going to move this intake manifold over, we need to take that charge pipe off to give us that room that it's taken up to move the intake over. And that's because there's one bolt on the oil filter housing that's kind of hidden underneath it, behind it. I think that's the one. I could be wrong, but yeah, so we'll go from there. Keep you updated. We're gonna get to this DME once I get the charge pipe and intake out, so I'll be back. Quick tip I learned: if you have a turbo car, obviously if you're doing this as a turbo car, that lower hose from the intake, just cover it up. You never know if something can get in there and end up in your turbo, and you know what that'll cause: destruction. So yeah, just put something in there. Better safe than sorry. So the DME is out, and now there's the heat sink, which is under. We got to take that off next. Believe it or not, yes, it's in the way. Make sure you keep track of where all these plugs go. They're pretty self-explanatory. They won't go into the wrong connections. They're designed to go into only one spot on that computer. But yeah, this one is the one you want to keep track of. So the sensor here goes from the DME connection to this pressure sensor, which is connected to our charge pipe. This pressure sensor, it goes to this one. The plug for that is back here. Actually, hold on, let's get this. So yeah, the one that's over there from the DME comes across to this. This from the DME comes across to here. And then this one from the charge pipe right here, I just took it back here. You do your own thing. At first I said I was just gonna get some blue Scotch tape and number it. Like I'll, for example, write some tape here, put 1 on it, and then the plug that goes into it, write some tape on that, put 1. You can do that too. Take a little longer, but you know, peace of mind. Alright, so this is 8, and this is gonna get this last bolt out for you guys down here. She's gonna come and zoom in so you can see exactly where it's at. Never mind. I got it. The bolt's here on the very bottom, and you need this wrench to get it because, as you can see, there's no clearance for any other type of tool to get onto that. So that's why this. And as you can see, as I screw, it's coming out. There she is, boys. We got her. Alright, I'll be back with an update. Alright, it's been a minute. Motor mounts are up next. Any N20 owner can tell this shit is leaning like Fat Joe, but we got the DME out, intake out, charge pipe disconnected. Now the intake manifold is coming out so that I can get this oil filter housing out of here completely and change the gaskets in it. Also, I got gaskets for the intake. Yeah, look at this baby motor, a little fuel rail. Making all that power though. Impressive. You can see where the leak was getting out of hand. Yeah, so I got all the gaskets here, some new bolts, and the intake manifold gaskets. Since I took it off, I'm gonna put some new ones. Alright, so you see why this job is necessary. That oil starts to leak pretty bad. And then you can see it was kind of going down onto my alternator. When I was doing this job, they were telling me not to spill coolant on the belt, but that it was tolerable on the N20 because of the harmonic balancer. I don't know the specifics on it, but if you have an N52 or an N55, the straight sixes of this era with the similar oil filter housing gasket issue, you're going to want to drain your water pump. You don't want that coolant on your belt, because what I have learned is that the way your engines are designed, that coolant will cause your belt to eat itself, is what they were saying on the YouTube video I watched. I believe it was FCP Euro. They said you spill coolant on the belt on those straight six motors, the way it's designed, the belt will slip and your engine will eat it. So don't do it the way I did it. I'm of course gonna let all that dry anyway. I'm taking my time putting this back together, but don't want you guys miss. Alrighty, so it's two pieces. Those are the gaskets. That's one gasket there, and that's going to be changed. And then there's this. Oh, sorry. And then there's this gasket. All right. I'll be back. Yeah, maybe use like a flathead, or if you have a pick tool, I highly recommend using that instead, so you don't damage any of the surfaces trying to get it out. And yeah, let's get it. Gone are the days for gasket sealer, at least on this part. But you can see here how the gasket has a lip. That's how you're guaranteed it's going to sit flush. Whereas the older gasket, which had no, it was way too flush. Look at that, there's no lip at all. And that's how that leak was getting through. So these new gaskets are definitely a necessity. As I'm putting my intake box back, I hear something loud rattling inside of it. I know you guys have heard of shade tree mechanics and whatnot, but somebody tell me how the fuck this got into my intake box. So that's how that surface should look going into reinstalling. You got the new gaskets in there, new bolts on. Yep. But yeah, always make sure you clean that surface back off. Guys, one tip I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna tell you now, it's gonna be pretty hard to get those gaskets in. And to be safe with these bolts, I just found a new little trick I'm gonna start doing. So you just get the little bolt on the bottom of your screwdriver, line your screwdriver up with that bolt, let it go, and let it fall right onto the bolt. See that? There you go.